three directions right now. You know? Or like the classic is I'll be like, to answer a question, well, you know, actually 3 reasons. And then I've only got 1 reason. And I'm like, so I give the first reason and my brain is already like trying to, what is the second and third reason? What the fuck? I'm like, why did you say 3 reasons? And,
we're here with Tim Okamura. He's
welcome, Tim.
thank you so much.
Based in New York.
Yeah.
And he just came to Europe to be part of Art Basel. And how was that, by the way?
Yeah, it was a great experience. Been in Europe for 3 weeks. When I say Europe to people in England, they know
It's fine. It's still Europe.
Yeah.
And they're
Just
thinking,
They seem to want to deny that. But yeah, this is like the end of a long trip that started. I landed in Zurich, coming from New York, and I was on my way to Basel. I just kind of went through Zurich for a day, but I brought 2 paintings with me that, which often ends up being my situation because I'm always hard up against the deadline. So it was like night before my flight, finishing a couple pieces, flew to Zurich, and then I took the train to Basel, and I was showing with my gallery out of Dusseldorf at Volta, which is one of the, I guess you could say a satellite fair, but really great fair. I was really proud to be part of it. So Art Basel is the main event, and a lot of pomp and circumstance, and definitely, you know.
as per tradition,
Yeah, I mean, what a over exciting, you know, sort of, I don't know if the word I'm looking for is, but kind of overblown in some ways. I mean, there's so much surrounding it, but Volta was a great fair to be a part of, and you know, a lot of people. There was actually a bus back and forth from Basel and Volta. So
And what do you think between your experience so far in America and coming to Europe and I mean, you already worked with a German gallery and all that, so you already had first contact here. And but what do you think the main differences are in terms of how to present yourself, your work? How do you feel about it? How do people react to it?
Yeah, I didn't really know what to expect. I think it's kind of like my biggest showing so far. I've actually, I was fortunate to be in the BP Portrait Award in the National Portrait Gallery here in London a number of years in a row, but it was always just that one painting, part of a big group show. So it was my first time really doing something solo in Basel, and the reaction was more positive than I could have hoped for. I think it was really cool, and met such a diverse group of people in Switzerland that lived in Basel, and a couple of people that ended up buying paintings. Like young cool guys. One guy was from Mexico, and one was from Spain, and just
that's pretty cool.
really ended up being a very sort of unexpected experience. I think overall there's for Art Basel as opposed to Art Basel in Miami, it's a little more serious. I think the business of art is kind of the priority as I found people were on the phone, talking about investing in pieces, and these different
like on
groups.
TV.
just very, it was just like people a lot more serious. The partying is not like a priority. There was a few great nights out, but like Art Basel in Miami is it's blended a lot with like parties and celebrities and musicians, and there's a lot of people that go there just to party, and I found more the opposite happening, in Art Basel in Europe, where it was really about the art. That was the priority, and so that was really cool. And so meeting people that were very well versed in art, like even young collectors that knew a lot, Whereas in Miami, and I use those as a point of comparison just because it's basically the same fair. But you get a lot of people that they're very new to art, and that's great too. And in fact, that's fantastic for I think that the consciousness level as it pertains to art in America has risen dramatically in the last few years. Like younger and younger folks are like,
that's good, because we're
it's
talking
cool to be an
about the breed of collectors and all that.
Yeah, I think that art and like painting and just wasn't on a lot of people's radar, as recently as a few years ago. And there's some key people that I think have really helped to elevate, the awareness. And in fact, like, I remember meeting with Swiss Beats, producer and married to Alicia Keys. And he's always been into art, and that was back in 2011. And I had a chance to sit down with him for a couple hours, and he was talking about, he's like, man, I love art. Like, I've been doing he actually rented a studio. He was doing his own work as well. And this is a guy that was.
Does he see your work as well?
He was doing his own work, yeah. And
it reminds me of Jim Carrey as well.
Well, there's a lot of celebrities that are feeling like sort of empowered and emboldened, I think, to start showing their work. Pierce Brosnan is another. Who he actually recently followed me on Instagram, which is like, I told my mother, she was like very excited. She's a big Pierce Brosnan fan. But so that's awesome to see too. Like, there's so many people that are multi-talented, right? Like, acting may be the thing that took off for them. John Mellencamp, who used to be John Cougar, is another guy that he's we've been in touch over the years, and he's a great painter as well. Like, and that's in fact what he had moved to New York City to do, was to become a painter. But then his music took off. So that's a pretty common story with a lot of people that end up becoming known for their acting and whatnot.
Yeah.
But just to circle back to the Swiss Beats thing, like he was saying, he's like, man, I'm trying to get these guys like Jay, Kanye, to stop buying like another chain, to stop buying another car, another watch. I was like, dude, like, invest in art, man. Like, that's where it's at. And that was in early 2011. And then I remember it was like, maybe 2 years later or something. I can't remember the date now, but like Jay-Z ended up doing Picasso Baby in, was it Barbara Gladstone Gallery in New York? But he filmed it in the gallery, and it was like, he's mentioning Basquiat and all these other artists and talking about art. And then all of a sudden, these young kids across America who are Jay-Z fans and hip hop fans are like, well, who's Basquiat? Well, what's he talking about? Who's Picasso? And finding out and getting, but I'm saying that, young kids, like, in a great way, like, getting turned on to art and becoming more and more conscious. Kanye kind of, got involved as well. So,
if those guys do it, then
and then like,
it's quite an outlet, isn't it?
Yeah.
So many people.
It's such a clever way to actually disseminate the knowledge.
Exactly.
Throughout the whole population,
And then,
by the way, just to put things in context, Tim is a figurative painter. He paints mainly portraits.
Yeah. Been focused on painting women of color for the past 20 years, probably now, mostly. Maybe a little bit less than 20 years, but it's been a long road. Yeah, I've been painting for, I think, over 30 years. So, just to age myself. I'm aging like a fine wine, as they say.
I'm aging like milk.
That's been kept out of the refrigerator, or in the refrigerator, in the back of the refrigerator.
In a day like this.
Yeah. But a lot of credit, and so it's great to see that the consciousness. I remember coming to London for the very first time years ago, and talking to somebody that was pretty straight-laced banker type, and then somebody else that was like, an account, not to say that they weren't cool, because they were cool, but just sort of more conservative seeming people. And they were like, oh yeah, we got to go to the Tate Modern to check out this, then we'll be, heading over to, see the Lucian Freud show. Like, the awareness in their, for your typical, like, Londoner that I would meet of art and its importance in their lives was kind of blew me away. They're like, yeah, you got to get a flat, you got to get furniture, you got to get art, the car, It was this list of priorities where art was very close to the top here. And if you talk to somebody, comparable in New York, like, they might not even mention art, but that's changed.
But I think
where people are really like, I want to start collecting art. How do I
here
do
it's
it?
very cultural. It's part of
a long history.
having a good level of life and well-to-do and all that. And it's actually something that people aspire to.
Yeah.
Having art means that you are well-to-do. You made it. You're good. So you can actually collect the stuff that you really love.
Yeah.
And we kind of do have that culture here in Europe, which is a really cool thing. It's not as, might not sound the right way, but probably not as materialistic as other cultures or in other places, but still,
Well, like I said, it's great to see that it's been changing in America, and in large part due to a lot of these celebrities that are collecting work and sometimes making a big splash. I mean, it's incredible to see. So I think as an artist, as a painter, I mean, overall, you know, I've remained pretty optimistic, and you know, and it's a lot of these younger people that, you know, before you know it, like they're buying art and supporting your work. So what, you know, I always try to make a point of, you know, trying to keep lines of communication open with younger folks. Not because I need them to buy or want, you know, you must become my collector in the future.
Buy.
But I think just to encourage them to, you know, continue to grow their interest in art. And if they collect it, great, or if they make art or whatever it may be, but just to have that become a part of their consciousness is,
it actually reveals quite an evolution in education, and especially in America. You know, people are getting more tuned in to get proper information and all that, which translates into culture and in actually trying to achieve a higher level and trying to know a little bit more and be wowed more as well, be surprised and all that.
Absolutely. Well, also just like arts education. I mean, that's the first thing to get cut in a lot of schools in America. Like the arts programs get, you know, sliced off.
Yeah,
and so there's such a lack of art education there too that you know, it's so funny that it's now coming through like these other channels of popular culture, like Jay-Z talking about. I mean, God, like the Carters doing a video in the Louvre. You know, and having like young folks that love Beyonce being like, okay, what are they talking about? What are these paintings like? Oh my God, like that's the Mona Lisa. Like what's, you know, it's really trippy that there's crossover is happening now,
which is ironic
because
because
explosion of interest.
Back in the 60s and 70s, like the real pop artists, the as in like rock stars and whatnot, were painters, were Picasso and Andy Warhol and those guys, you know. And I think we lost quite a lot of that, and we moved to almost an alternative reality where things changed so much.
Right.
But having that coming back and actually growing again, I think that's really
and that
awesome.
video is just such a defining moment, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really, you know, that kind of, you know, because it's a meeting with that, you know, ingrained European, you know, sort of powerhouse, you know, of a place.
Yeah.
You know, which is what the Louvre technically represents, you know.
Absolutely.
And so it's a real defining moment.
Well, and then you know, obviously the commentary of what it was about. Like it's like, hey, we're looking around this museum.
Precisely.
Where's the diversity and representation, and where, like, what,
Absolutely.
you know, what are we looking at as an institution here? What's being reinforced, you know, as being masterpiece work? Like, where are the people of color? So that's a super important message. But I do think also that it's, you know, with the technology explosion and things like iPhones and iPads and video games, there was like, you know, a huge general, you know, like how could you not, you know, be enthralled by that stuff? But now that we're kind of getting more used to it, saying, okay, this exists, or video games, I feel like there's a shift back to saying, you know what, it's actually really cool to see somebody take some colors on a palette and a brush and make something that's, you know, soulful and real and tactile and an object that I can hold in my hands. And so there's this kind of swing back to like, you know, understanding the value of like a handmade item and the craftsmanship and the blood, sweat, and tears that goes into making something. Because a lot of that stuff ends up being very disposable. You know, like that's why everybody's, you know, just your average person can claim to be a pretty great photographer, because now that you've got digital, you can take 1,000 photos and cull it down to like 10 good ones, you know, and you look like a pretty damn good photographer. Whereas back in the days, you know, it was to be more selective and have the eye from the very beginning. It couldn't be hit or miss.
Yeah, absolutely.
But and also as a figurative painter, I mean, you know, at one point I remember people saying, well, why don't you do this abstract thing, or how come you should do sculpture, or, you know, you should do, like, there's always a suggestion to do something besides be a figurative painter. And I was like, well, then I wouldn't want to be an artist, because this is what I want to do. Like, what?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, why? I don't just want to generally, you know, like, find whatever to do as an artist. It's like I'm compelled to like work with the figure. I love people. I love faces, and it's something I've always loved, and that's what I continue.
And why specifically people of color?
You know, it was really well, first of all, very natural to me. It's not something that I really thought about too much. I think based on my background, growing up in Canada and being half Japanese and sort of, winding up being friends with all the kids that were also like, hey, where do I fit here? So my friends were from like Trinidad, Jamaica, Guyana, and so that was kind of, I always had a very diverse group of friends, and I would sometimes do paintings or drawings of them and not really think much of it. I think when I was finishing grad school in New York, I went to the School of Visual Arts, and I was just meeting a lot of people that I were like, man, I've just never really seen like a realist painting of somebody that looks like you before. That was something that really occurred to me. I was like, yeah, do you mind if I paint you? And that's kind of how it started. I guess I always thought the word inspiration was kind of corny, but now I think about it, it's like, yeah, that was like, I was inspired, and especially, with women, I was like, I just haven't seen these paintings, and I thought, well, in fact, it almost sounds like I thought about it more than I did. It was such a flow to it. I just was like, hey, I want to paint you. That's cool. Very natural, very flow. And very much a case of like not wanting to just paint somebody that I've already seen painted before. And so that's really where it started. And then, like you're kind of in a bubble when you're a younger painter, and you just don't really realize maybe the ramifications until the work starts to get more and more out there. And then you get more and more questions like, hey, you're painting people of color, but you're not a person of color. And then I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess I gotta wrap my head around, I didn't really think about that being a thing. And
I think that's where you could draw the difference between what inspiration is and what influence is. The way that you were influenced by your environment and the people you dealt with, your friends.
Oh yeah, very much so. Yeah, very
more
much so.
than. So I think.
It's also just intention, isn't it?
Yeah, and in a certain perspective, it's kind of an unfair question to ask either you or anyone that is different from the group they're representing, or you know what I mean.
Well, actually, I think it's a fair question, and it's a good question to sort of have to answer within yourself. Like for me, I guess the thing that's about it that's interesting is that. I've had to sort of like ask myself that, like, why? How did this happen? Like why was I drawn to this subject matter? But again, it was very, very natural. I mean, I was also very much into hip hop in a musical sense, and so I was interested in doing like hip hop album covers, and I had a hip hop radio show when I was in college, and just so I think my world was just this very diverse world, and I also was into rock. So I was in a rock band and DJing hip hop, at the same time. And that was this sort of balance for me that has really defined my whole existence, being half Japanese and half English heritage, being a Libra, balanced guy, so it's just been this diverse kind of balanced existence, and the choices that I think I've made have always felt very natural. So there's never a point where I really, really did sit there and go, like, who should I paint or what should I paint?
Right.
I mean, that decision was made in the same day that I began a painting kind of thing.
Oh wow.
And then when I did a painting, let's say, of a friend of mine who had this gorgeous afro, I was like, wow, that felt really good, and I really liked that result, and then I asked another friend of hers to pose, and that kind of thing, and it was just very natural. I didn't think that it would be something I'd have to sort of explain later, I guess. But I'm happy to do it. It's important, and I think that it's if somebody has to ask questions about like, is this okay for this guy to be painting this woman, or I think that's me effectively doing my job as an artist, because I think every good artist should be posing questions, should be challenging people, and should be, starting conversations. Like, I didn't ever want to be the guy that's like, hey guys, I'm gonna do landscape painting. Does that seem cool with everybody? You guys like that? Okay, here, now I'll do that. And you know, because I'm Canadian, and this makes sense, and everybody will like it, and nobody's going to be offended, and
Maple leaves
and
and
you know,
all.
I'll just kind of get this, you know, live this easy landscape painter life. No, it's not. It's not easy. It's not easy being any kind of painter. But does that make sense? Like I didn't really think like I need to get people's approval before I began doing what was sort of in my gut and my heart.
It's in that sense that I think that question is a little bit unfair towards you, because questioning you because of your choice or what led you to do it is one thing. Question the reasons why you do it, it's something totally different.
Yeah.
And it's like trying to put you on the spot, as in, oh, you're trying to take advantage of a certain culture or a certain look or whatever they want to define it for, you know? And, you know, you yourself, you're, like you said, you're half Japanese, so you're in a completely different context already culturally.
Yeah.
You know, so it's, and I think especially today, there is so much fear and people try to be as careful as possible to put words in a certain way, not to offend anyone. And it kind of, I think it's a deterrent to free communication.
Yeah.
And we end up not conveying the ideas we really want to, and things get too filtered. And
On that note,
that.
just reminds me of this quote Kerry James Marshall put up on his page the other day, which I saw and I just think is perfect, which is that don't think about making art, just get it done. Let everyone else decide if it's good or bad, whether they love it or hate it. While they're deciding, make even more art.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like,
That nails it exactly.
Yeah.
I think that, but you know, again, I think the questions are fair, and the, you know, I'll do my best to answer, and my answer has evolved. You know, I think there was a time when I wanted to have like a really, you know, sort of canned response. Okay, here's my answer, and that's it.
Yeah.
But I could never feel like 100% that was completely honest, because I think I was still trying to figure out, okay, well, this is actually very complex, I guess. Like,
And a
the more I
very
break it
open
down.
field as well.
Yeah.
You cannot point in just one direction.
Yeah.
There are so many things. It's so complex.
Yeah.
That you cannot put it in a bubble and define
Yeah,
it. You know?
exactly. Like, there's so many reasons that motivate you to be a painter, and you know, I mean, like we were talking about this earlier, like the idea of like, you love painting, like you must love what you do. And it's like, yeah, but it's like this twisted kind of love. It's not like puppy love. It's not
More like
it's not
torture.
Yeah,
love.
it's like I said, you know, it's like being in an abusive relationship, you know, and your spouse like beats on you daily, but you just can't leave because you're just in this weird love thing that's kind of twisted and kind of fucked up, and you have to do it, because if you don't do it, you'll be even more. I mean, I'm unhappy at times, you know, in my studio, tortured. But if I'm not in my studio, it's worse.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like that. Like, I gotta do it. And I got to a point where there was no plan B, and which is, you know, pretty scary stuff. But I was just like, I can't even imagine like I could do anything. Like, I wouldn't want to live anymore almost.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
if I was doing something else. So I gotta just somehow find a way to make this happen and to make it work. But back to your point, I just wanted to like say as well that, you know, you can't control the way people will perceive what you're doing. You know, it's everybody's gonna have a filter they see things through. Some people will look at my work and go, oh, he's jumping on the bandwagon, he's doing this, you know, and they're seeing it from their perspective, and sometimes lack of information. Sometimes they have a very negative view of, you know, not just art but the world, you know. So I can't control that. I know for myself that the intentions are 100% positive, that I really think it's important to be another voice contributing to you know, representations of women of color. I think, you know, there's some amazing stories that need to be captured on canvas, and that's what I consider myself to be as a storyteller. I think there's a woeful lack of underrepresentation in galleries and museums, and especially, you know, in the realm of realism, which is where I'm you know, kind of land on the spectrum of figurative painters. I just think there's a lot of just dope people that I've met who are absolutely needed to be painted. And beautiful inside and out women that I just felt compelled, attracted to, and sometimes attracted them to me, because sometimes people email me and say, hey, can I pose for you? And I kind of get into their story and say yo, you're fucking dope, man. Like, come to the studio. Really cool. So it's kind of just been this very organic journey. Thank God, like, for all the positivity. Thank God for the people that take the time to email me and say, like, thank you so much for, making the paintings that you've made. And, it's very emotional stuff for me when you get that kind of feedback from somebody that's like, yo, I've never seen. My daughter said to me in the museum today, I was lucky enough to have a piece in the National Portrait Gallery in DC, and somebody took a picture of their little girl looking at the painting, and she goes, my daughter said to me for the first time, Mommy, like, she looks like me.
Yeah.
And I like teared up, So I get emotional now talking about it. Awesome, but stuff, I mean, that's just one example.
Awesome.
But so many times where I'm like,
that acknowledgement.
I mean, does it matter who made the painting? Like, the painting is there.
Yeah,
it's in the National Portrait Gallery, hanging amongst all these others, and I'm proud to be part of the show that I was, because it was so diverse, and there was so much kind of social political consciousness, I think, in the fabric of that show. But the fact is, the painting is there, and the message is there. And if it's coming from a being that created it, who has, the right positive vibes and a good heart, like, at the end of the day, like, who cares about some of the color of my skin details? I think we should be drawing each other. I think we should be painting each other, photographing, writing stories. Let's get closer, man. Let's get more connected. Let's break down.
We'll be doing that in a moment, actually.
Barriers.
That's awesome, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tim.
All right, man. Thank you. Thanks, man. Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
And hopefully you'll be back.
I'll be back.
Yeah.
Resisting the Schwarzenegger accent.
Too easy.